What's up, everybody? My name is Brandon McCullum, also known as B-Mix-C, and this is Nice Minds. I'm with a very, and I say very special guest today, my homeboy, Mawuli AKA Bass Violator, AKA Free Drugs. What's good, my dude? How are you?
I am doing great. What's happening, Brandon?
It's great to see your face, man. I mean, it's been a minute. So yeah, we go back probably like 6 or 7 years at this point now. It's been forever.
Yeah, I'd say about 7. We probably started working together around 2014.
So we go way back. And when I started NGE, you were early on in the mix. And we started doing a bunch of shows, collaborating together, all that shit. And we became good friends. I mean, I would come through your spot all the time, and we'd kick it, have deep conversations, all that type of shit. And you've been one of the closest homies that I've had. I mean, we can always, like, no matter where we are in our lives, we can always talk, and we end up talking for like hours, and it's always the same type of shit. But I want to dive into your background, dude. So how'd you get into music?
So it's crazy. I'll say my parents were always into music. My dad made us all me and all my siblings. My dad made it a point to have us classically trained in piano. So we all took piano lessons starting from age 5. Well, I started at age 5. I'd say my sisters probably started, at different points in their lives, but it was something that started from very early on. My parents, for whatever reason, made it essential that me and all my siblings would be classically trained in piano. So I started at age 5, and I won't lie, I absolutely hated the piano lessons. I hated the routine. I just hated the whole deal. And I had a hard time keeping up with my piano. I never did my theory work. I barely practiced, unless forced to. But that's where my musical background, started, from the technical aspect. But personally, I've always loved music. I've always listened to music. My dad has always had music and kept music in the house as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say where I really picked it up, because I feel like music has always been a part of my life. But I've always had it around, always listened to it, always watched my dad's old VHS tapes. He would always record this thing called Variety Show, and Variety Show was basically like the early MTV in Ethiopia. And they would basically just like feature all the number 1 songs. And it would be anything from, Madonna, Kool and the Gang, Michael Jackson, and a bunch of like African, Cameroonian, West African, North African, like Egyptian music as well. Whatever that was featured number 1 at the time. Or, whatever was buzzing at the time.
So you're from Ethiopia, and I didn't even know that until like we were maybe a year into our friendship, and you told me, and I was like, you're from Ethiopia? You barely have an accent. When did you come to the United States?
I moved to the United States in 2008. Yeah, and I basically just moved here to further my education. But it's crazy that you say I don't have an accent. English is my first language. And my dad is actually, I wouldn't say like, I guess my dad was an English major actually in university. My dad has a very strong West African accent, but you can't get anything past him technical, especially when it comes to written and spoken English. Like, he's always picking apart what you say, how you say it. Like, he's just very with it. So I guess the reason I don't have an accent would be because from a very early age, I was in an American school setting and around Americans and British kids and Australians and, a bunch of different European kids and a bunch of different African kids and Asian, across the board, because I went to an international school. So I was always around the culture. I'm sure I had an accent early on in my years. Going to the American school, I guess I kind of just acclimated to that, and that became my, that just became the thing that I soaked up.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I hadn't because yeah, when you told me like I'm from Ethiopia, bro, I was like, damn, no way. Like I was, I mean, I can hear it sometimes, like in certain things that you say. I'm just like a little bit, but I was just like mind blown, bro, mind blown. Um, so you started as Bass Violator, and you still go by Bass Violator, but when your rap persona is Free Drugs, and it's kind of like this alter ego. So you started as a DJ, right? I mean, like in the EDM scene and stuff, right?
Yes, that's basically how I started uh, pursuing my sound and furthering my production and kind of crafting like a name for myself in the EDM scene. But it's funny you say that because when I was younger and lived in Ethiopia, I used to go by Young Killer, actually. That was my rap name.
Oh, word.
So it's funny that you even brought that up because it kind of just sparked something in my mind now. I've always had this duality. I've always had this idea of being a DJ slash producer and being a rapper. So early on, I guess I had kind of had the idea to split them up as two completely different names and two completely different things.
I always thought that you should come out in like a completely different costume, like Shock G of Digital Underground would do with Humpty Hump. He would come out with like the glasses and the fake nose and shit. And I always thought you should come out in like some like wizard type shit or something.
I mean, honestly, it's funny you say that. I'm in no rush to really perform any of my music right now. Given the fact that COVID and there's a lot of like weird restrictions and stuff.
Right.
I really do want to have a character, an outfit design for when I perform.
That would be dope.
It's definitely in the works, actually. I want to present Bass Violator and Free Drugs as comic book characters within the music industry.
Sick.
And I kind of want them to have their own powers and their own movements and modes of travel and like, own backstories. And obviously I want every artist that I work with to be almost in a comic book world character themselves.
That's fire. That's super dope. And yeah, the comic book stuff, because I I always wanted to do that with Jezebel James as well, because 2JD aka Jezebel James always had that kind of comic book. I mean, we have this almost like this NGE world that we came up with together, and we write all these characters, and like the 2JD albums go in this like story. If you like, for people listening that aren't familiar, go and listen to Gemini Cities and then listen to Battle of the Brainwaves, and it's like follows the story, and it's like very comic book centered. And that would be really dope if we like, if you came up with a comic book and Jezebel James came up with a comic book, and they like the world's just like intertwined. That'd be sick.
I'm really into that. I'm really furthering the idea. So the story in which Bass Violator and Free Drugs exist in is actually called Digital Quest. And the universe is called the Mixer. And basically it's all about like frequencies and stuff, and how people, relate to different frequencies, and how different frequencies are used to like not only alter your mind, but help build and solidify different ideas. So I think within the years to come, yeah, I think the universe within Jezebel James and slash 2JD, I think the world that they live in will definitely cross paths with the universe in which Free Drugs and Bass Violator also exist in. And there will be a lot of character development along the way too, and it'll pinpoint like how different rappers have their own superpowers, and how they're all sound alchemists in their own ways, and how they're all trying to do their part.
That's dope. Yeah. So you've come out with a lot of different projects as Bass Violator, and you've always had, Bass Violator featuring Free Drugs, when you do your rap stuff. But this is your first full length solo project, right? Still Loading is what it's called.
This is my first attempt to put a piece of work out as a rapper slash recording artist, I guess. So yeah, it's my first time putting out like a consecutive piece of work. I've been featured on a lot of stuff, not only with you. I've done a lot of shows with a lot of DJs where Free Drugs has done, different verses, or if not, written songs together with said producers, and we've done performances. So yeah, this is my first time attempting to just focus on the, the recording slash vocal aspect of Free Drugs as an artist.
That's dope. And you did all of the recording, all the production, all the mixing, like everything yourself, right?
I wrote and produced everything, and it's crazy because as a rapper, I kind of wanted to tap into the idea of not really having to focus as much as the production. But it's weird because I am my own producer.
Right.
So, trying to tap into different mindsets is kind of strange. But I think I did it. I kind of wanted to keep the beats really simple in terms of the production aspect. But it's funny I say that because it wasn't simple at all. What I really wanted to do was kind of use sounds that have already been created, and I didn't want to like work too hard at the actual production, but I ended up doing a lot of work anyways. The whole idea was to really use a lot of already built samples. So I used a lot of samples from like hip hop packs, lo-fi sample packs, and then I just build on that.
You invited me to rap on this track called Syntax, and to be honest with you, at first, because the version you sent me was like you said, like you're simple, and it was like overly simple. So I was like, at first I was like, because I mean it was like drums, bass line, and like a simple piano part.
Yeah, and a sample.
Yeah. So at first I was like, damn. Like I thought I was gonna get on something kind of harder. So I was like, at first I was like, I don't know if I can write to this, and I was like, kind of like, I was like, this is cool, but it's like super bare bones. And then I was kind of having writer's block at first, and then I you were like, nah, man, you got this, and I'm like, all right. So I sat down and started writing my verse, and all of a sudden these like crazy lines just started coming to my head. It was like all of a sudden this light bulb turned on, and I won't repeat the line on this because I want people to go check out Syntax. But there's a line in the track, and it was not necessarily the most how do I say it? PC line.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that would, yeah, you could put it under that umbrella.
It was a risky reference, and I ran it by you, and I was like, yo, I don't know if I want to say this or not. And you're like, bro, that shit is crazy. Fucking say it.
I don't really believe in censorship unless you're really, unless you're really saying some shit that's just like out of pocket to the point where it's just like, nah.
Right.
It wasn't terribly offensive in that way.
Right. And so yeah, so then I asked you, I'm like, yo, do you think this is cool? And you're like, fuck yeah, bro, that shit's crazy. So then you guys, your team, I guess I should mention you're with a team called More Beats, right? That's the team?
More Beats is a team, and it consists of Mr. L, who's the CEO and front runner, and who's actually himself a new recording artist. For the last like 20 plus years, he's been doing a lot of production, and he has a lot of credits. He's done a lot of things. And it's what's crazy to me how the universe works is I had a beat that Mr. L produced on my computer years before I had even met him.
What? You didn't tell me that. That's crazy.
This is fucking nuts how it works. It's crazy. I have this Super Mario beat where Mr. L sampled Super Mario, the beat, and he just kind of produced it, and he had an idea for it. Someone bought it out, and basically, he relinquished his credits on it. But it ended up being something that got pushed forward, without him because he had been bought out. But yeah, I had a beat from him, or a beat produced by him, years and years before I'd even met him. And yeah, More Beats consists of Mr. L, who I said is like a brand new recording artist. He's been producing, and and helping a lot of artists like craft their sound, and been putting sounds behind a lot of amazing artists over the years. So he is a front runner. And then there's GLS, who's like probably one of the most amazing writers I've ever come across. And then there's JQ Capone, and there's also Shallow 718, and there's a whole bunch of new artists who are also and now a part of it. They're all coming together and like helping build this new engine.
As more beats, you said you guys have like focus groups, right?
We work with a lot of different producers, artists, groups, teams, individuals. So yeah, we always like play our music, and show it to people, and like definitely cross reference it. So basically, what had happened was I was at the point where I was ready to start showing people my music and start getting that feedback and see how people felt about it. So I every time I come to the studio, there's either a new artist or artists that either regularly record or bring new artists in to record and try and see what we can do with new sounds and new talents. So I had played it for a couple of different people, and what had happened was one person was not really offended, but was just kind of like had pointed out like that line that you had said could be taken in a bad way. And for some reason I took it as like, oh shit, I don't want to, if it's bad, it's bad. And how people receive bad music,
Right.
it doesn't get the ability to impact the way it does. So I played it for a couple of people, and the impact wasn't what I thought it was. And they had brought up the fact that like you're referencing someone who isn't here anymore, and this and that. But the funny thing about it is when I played it for my team, More Beats, no one, not a single person across the board had even referenced that line as being anything offensive. And
Word.
it ended up being actually a line that was like, when I decided, oh shit, maybe we could try and not have that line in the song anymore. And I was like trying to figure out ways to not, to creatively take it out, but still have the verse be impactful in its own way. The whole team was like, no, you wildin'. That's like the most impactful line. And that's one of the best lines and craziest lines. And I was like, oh shit, you're right.
So yeah, after you told me about the focus group and like how they reacted, I was like, oh shit, because I was already feeling some type of way about that line.
You had told me when you gave me the song, you were like, yo, this line is kind of, you'd even told me as you were writing the verse, you were like, yo, I came up with some crazy shit, light bulb, went on. I figured it out. I got a verse, and I don't know how I feel about this verse. How I feel about this line? You did your part to let me know about it, but I said initially, like, fuck it, it doesn't matter.
Yep. And so yeah, so you said like this, this focus group, they, a couple of people were like, oh shit, that line's kind of whatever. And then you're like, do you have an alternate verse? And I'm like, nah, why don't you just like, interject something else in there or something? So that's what I thought the plan was gonna be. And then you sent me the track, and I was like, oh shit, the line's still in there. What the fuck? But it sounds fucking great. Like the production that you did to it, I was like blown away because it was like nothing from what I recorded to, like in a good way. It was like completely fleshed out. I was like, oh shit, this sounds great. But that line is still in there. Oh shit. So I kind of like had a panic attack at first because I was like, oh, I didn't think you were going to leave that in there. And you're like, nah, fuck it.
In the process of like recording and mixing and finalizing these records, I had a conversation with my mentor, Mr. L. And the first thing he said was, nah, like you got to honor what people say, and you got to just follow through and find a way to either build on it or mix and, take out the things that you don't think, or honor them in ways by layering them. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, You know, and you told me that you were really feeling that verse. You said it was one, you know, one of the best lines you had come up with in a long time. And I was just like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna take that out. And it was an easy decision, honestly. And it just became more of a creative challenge for me to just kind of layer it with different melodies and like uh, you know, samples and bells and chords and stuff. And yeah, honestly, that's one of my favorite songs on the album, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's really dope, but at the same time, like, my brand is like nice guy shit. So that's why I was like feeling hella guilty about that line at first. Cuz I don't want people to take it the wrong way.
The definition of syntax is basically the structure of a sentence. And as rappers, there's so many different ways we can break that apart. And I was just like, fuck it, talk your shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like I think it was a it was a panic that I had that I projected on you that I definitely didn't need to. I was scared at how people were gonna incorporate, you know, feel about your reference, especially being where I am now. And but at the end of the day, I think that song stands as like one of the best songs on the album.
Hell yeah, I appreciate that.
And you came through with that shit.
Fuck yeah, dude. But no, it was funny because I sent it to I snuck and I was like, because I wanted one other opinion, so I snuck and sent it to Benjam and K. And I was like, yo, tell me what you think. You'll know the line when you hear it. And bro, he was like, the line about your wife? I'm like, I'm like, all right, if it went over your head, then it's gonna go over most people's heads, and most people won't even fucking pick up on it. And of course, the Benjamin's gonna pick up the wife line.
That's fucking hilarious that he said
That's
that.
gonna be the line that offends him. But I was like, all right, if you didn't get offended by that,
It's a fucking amazing line, especially in reference to what you're talking about.
right? But yeah, and it's the first verse that I've recorded on a track. I mean, I've done a couple things, but like the first released thing in a minute, probably like a year and a half. So it's been a minute since I've like actually done like a publicly released BMXC thing.
I'm honored that this is what you came out of your shell for.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Because you know, I'm not gonna lie, the album itself is a very personal album for me. Like I'm not gonna lie, I really held back on releasing this for a long time. Like I started the first song on the album, I started writing probably about like 2 years ago, if not maybe possibly, yeah, about 2 years ago, I'd say. And it was weird. It was just it was very personal. It was this showing, like talking about things on this level of personal like reflection was very hard for me. And I was really like anxious about people accepting this, you know, kind of music from me, because I'm known as Bass Violator. All I do is just violate bass lines, and you know, it's either that or I'm just fucking talking my shit as free drugs, or like, you know, talking about some spiritual leveling up and shit. But yeah, it's the album itself is like really, really personal for me, and it was like really reflective. But it also like is the album itself is really it's me. Is, you know, the bottom line is this album is me. The songs really like are me from start to finish, and I really show like the parts of me that are free drugs and Bass Violator. So one of the biggest parts of, you know, one of the biggest things that I did in Minnesota was be a part of Nice Guy Entertainment. And you know, I don't know if you know how much of an impact you've had on my ability to like make music and like put my music out. You gave me like a really big platform and ability to, you book me for so many shows, and you big me up. So that's why like I had to have you and 2JD or Jezebel James on the album. Only the realest people musically who have impacted me like that are on this album. So that's why the order is like, it starts off with me leaving Minnesota, but me referencing one of my favorite, you know, rhymers from Minnesota, Jezebel James. And then I go into Right Now, and then I touch back into like some touchy shit. And then I get right back to fucking the point of like really making really deep, impactful music. And spitting shit, and that's why you're on Syntax. And then I wrote one love song on the album. It's called Closer, or no, it's called Distance. I'm not a fan of writing love songs, but my mentor kind of was, you know, a lot of people are making a lot of R&B and like really emotional and reflective music right now. And I was always like, I don't really need to make that shit. And he's like, what, you don't think you can tap in?
Oh shit. He challenged you,
Yeah,
yo.
straight up, man. He be doing that shit though. He be doing that shit. Like every time I'm resisting, he's like, oh, is it because you don't think you can do it?
Yep.
Not that you have anything to prove, but if you haven't done it, you probably should do it. And I was just like, no, I've written love songs. He's like, so why can't you?
No, damn. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm not in love right now. He's like, so you can't talk about the many other times you've been in, you know, he was just kind of like, why can't you just fucking write it? So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna write it.
That's fire, man. I can't wait to hear it, man. And I'm honored, bro. I mean, I'm super honored, especially to have Jezebel James as the other guest feature too. It's just very fitting, man, because that we met through Jezebel James, you know, years ago, and you know we have this history, and it was originally gonna be your first project on Nice Guy Entertainment, but I mean, Nice Guy Entertainment isn't really a label at this point in time. Eventually, I would like it to go back to being a crew.
You know, the thing is like you just aren't seeing it as what it once was. It's not a matter of it going back. It'll always maintain and be what it was. It'll just be a matter of what you're, you know, prioritizing and being able to like give time and effort into building something
Exactly.
over time and like intentionally, you know, piecing things together. But like Nice Guy Entertainment, like I said, like this album was supposed to be my fulfillment to my contract that I wrote with y'all.
Yep.
That's why I was like, when I do this album, I'm gonna really make it like really just show like who I am musically. And who I am musically, you know, for me, like a lot of my time that I spent in Minnesota writing was with y'all. Like you're the one who was just like, oh, you should do these shows. You should do these shows. Like Twist is gonna do the show. And you're the reason why I kept on writing hip hop, you know, and doing a lot of that shit and felt comfortable. I mean, of course, I was like involved in a bunch of other shit, but you gave me that like spark to like, yo, you should come do this show.
Damn, that's what's up, bro.
You kept that fire, dude.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how much I was really motivating you, man.
You know what's crazy? As artists, we're always talking about like making it. And it's crazy. My definition of making it, of course, you know, as most people's is writing that one hit song and really impacting people and being able to like sell out shows and do all that crazy shit. But you were one of the, you know, pivotal moments of me making it was me signing my first deal.
That's dope.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a deal that was like trying to choke me for like content and shit. It was just like, nah, man, we got like a collective of people. We can always book blocks of music together. We could move as a unit. We could take over fucking, you know, slots of time. And we played mad shows. We did a bunch of shit. We played Halloween shows. We played shows all, you know, all over Minneapolis. So big ups to Nice Guy Entertainment.
Hell yeah, man.
It'll be back in full swing. It'll just be back in different once you redefine it.
It's crazy. I mean, I've explained this a million times on this podcast. And you know, I had to take a step back for me basically, to kind of get my shit straight. And what I loved about all of you guys is every single one of you understood. Like you all were super fucking cool when I made that phone call, and I was like, yo, you know, Nice Guy Entertainment's just got to be my personal brand for a while, you know. And you all were super fucking supportive, and you were all like fuck yeah, bro, we're there with you still. We ride with you.
This is a lifelong engagement, I feel like. And honestly, like you saying that you stepping forward and having to say that, you know, especially at the level that you were at, you were like the main person, you know, you're like the big boss, you're like the head honcho of a whole label. So you're the one who has to like kind of let everybody know. But it's crazy about what in times of COVID is like everyone was kind of like really tapping into who they were, not only artistically but like
Yep.
personally. And you said that, it was just like, no, bro, like we're all doing that. We're all focusing. So if that's what you need to do, focus.
Yep.
It only makes sense that we have to reprioritize and like shift things around and stuff.
Yeah.
These times ain't easy, man.
Yep, exactly. And part of it too, you know, and the major part of it was just that like I was getting all of this work and I felt like I couldn't give you guys all the attention that you guys deserved, you know, and like I my focus was like all on this other shit and I'm like these guys deserve fucking the attention that I gave them for the last, you know, 5 years and I just couldn't do that at this point. But what I'm hoping is because this verse that you let me do on your EP kind of lit a fire under my ass to like get back into my rap shit.
See, and I was just talking to someone about you getting back to your rap shit. You're never gonna not be a rapper. It's just how much time are you giving to be that,
True.
you know, a level are you letting people tap in? And honestly, this verse is fucking fire. You don't even know how many times I've just like before I left the studio just played Syntax.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, and to be honest with you, bro, like I listened to it over and over again and I was just like, damn. Like I can't give this shit up. I gotta pop back in there.
See, and this is the thing, like it really just becomes a matter of like what you're trying to do artistically as an artist. And regardless of like, obviously this is your passion. You've put over 10,000 hours into this. And you know, a lot of those hours, I won't even say a lot, but some of those hours might not have been like focused and detailed and intentional to like do the craziest of things. They were just, you know, getting your hours in. You put so many hours in that now it's just a matter of like, how are you going to structure it? How are you going to get better at what are you going to get better at? What are you going to give time to?
Yep.
No matter what we're doing, no matter what the goal is, the only way to effectively get through is to like have a visual representation of what you're trying to do and hold yourself accountable.
Speaking of which, I mean, you've been putting in work. So how many projects are you dropping this year? So like this is like the first one, but it's the first of many.
This is actually my second one because I dropped
That's right.
Thank God for the Gang as Bass Violator, where I just like produced all 14 tracks and I rapped on 10 of them and I just, you know, hashed out like a bunch of creative shit with the team. So, and it's crazy. I actually have about 10 projects ready to drop.
Oh, damn.
And when I say ready to drop, I mean like they're not fully completed, but I mean like I know what these projects are. I know what they're going to consist of. I know who's featured on what. And a lot, like they're like between like, you know, 60 to 80, some 50% done. I have a lot of content ready. But one thing I'm learning about content is it's one of the most important things that's going to set you aside from people who claim they do this.
Right.
I put in work in the studio, man. I'm in there like 18 hours a day. Being in the studio 18 hours and how many hours you work and actually get shit done.
Right.
It's really just about like I have content, but I really got to be smart about how I let people digest it,
Yep.
anticipate and promote and have people like yearn and, you know, be like, oh shit. So now the game is I got like about 10 albums ready, but I really want to spread them over a span of time and attach different kind of promotions and merch and different things to like each project. So that's the goal now.
When 2020 hit, I ask everybody on this podcast, what sort of thing? I mean, because we already kind of touched on like what that changed for both of us. But what was kind of going through your head? What was your like mentality like when like the COVID first hit?
It was terrifying. Especially because like I had just moved and I had just tapped into like a new source and opportunity to be able to like practice and craft my art and I had all these ideas about what I wanted to do, and there were so many avenues to play shows and like potentially travel and like do all that shit. But then COVID hit, and it was like all of that was out the window. But one thing I knew was I had a studio space that I had access to that was very, very, close enough within reach where I could access it as much as possible. So I know no one really knows how much I panicked during COVID, but you'll know when you listen to this fucking music because I haven't taken a fucking day off, not a single day off since COVID hit. It's just become like, yo, music is the only thing that matters.
COVID was fucking terrifying, and I think it changed the landscape for so many people, bro. And it made us, think about everything and think about our lives and our careers and people. It's made me just really appreciate everything and everybody in my life, and made me think about how much I appreciate you guys and everything that we've done together. And um now in 2021, like like all the shit you're saying like is inspiring me, man. So I feel like I'm gonna go back and just start opening up sessions again and writing, bro.
You know, it's crazy. What I feel like every time you started something and gave it, in some cases a couple of hours, in some cases like days, and then you never completed it, it means that you tapped into something and you had an idea. So with everything that you've learned now, why not tap into what you thought you were about to do when you did it, and just give it that love and that final completion.
Yep.
You got nothing but time.
I don't have the time I used to have, but I mean that's not an excuse.
But the thing is, if you don't have the time that you had before, you have less time now. So that means, like I said, the most important thing that I've learned recently is just like, regardless of what you're trying to get done, if you understand what it is, you can map it out and how to get it done.
Yep.
You don't have to pressure yourself into finishing an album by the end of the year. It's just all about being in tune. Just write a verse every day.
And that's what I did with this podcast, to be honest. Like this podcast is, this is, this is almost number 30. And since the beginning of the year, it's just been like every single week since January 1st, and that was my goal. My goal is every Friday this year, at least every Friday. Sometimes I had 2 episodes. So at least every Friday this year is podcast every fucking week, because I want to get everybody's ideas, everybody's thoughts, and everybody that I believe in, every creative. I want to give us all a platform.
This is how I know that you are ready and willing and able to tap in to the discipline to take it to the next level. Because this is the same thing that I told myself I was going to do. Years ago, I realized that, I read on this website that I had bookmarked, but somehow the link and everything, like, I don't even know where the fuck it went. But I read this thing that talked about how the best way to effectively tap into your resource and opportunities is by having content ready and putting it out over a span of a year, and either having something ready every week or multiple things ready every week, even in different ways. Like not only having songs ready, but having, videos, and you've already done it. You've tapped into your weekly thing for the year. That weekly discipline.
Yep.
Giving yourself that platform and that goal, and just spanning it out and figuring it out and learning how to craft it every week. That's how you do it.
You've been dropping gems this podcast, man. You've been tapping in.
I've had a crazy opportunity to learn and grow with some amazing individuals. And the one thing that's always said over and over is like when you become this effective power horse of like information and knowledge, you got to figure out how to spread it.
Yep. So this is dropping Friday, but your EP drops Wednesday. So by the time people watch or listen to this, it will already be dropped. So where can people go and listen to the EP?
It'll be available on all streaming platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. It'll be on SoundCloud. It'll be on Bandcamp.
Fuck yeah, dude. I'm so stoked for this.
You know, I I didn't realize, but I think intentionally, what I really wanted to do was just change how people felt. I just wanted people to really feel, and I know certain people are gonna know exactly what I'm talking about at certain times. Other people are gonna panic and be like, "Damn, who is he talking about? Is he talking about me?"
I'm stoked for you. I'm honored to, call you one of my good friends, man, and I appreciate everything that we've, built together and done together, and I can't wait for the future.
Everything we've done this past couple of years is the foundation on like everything that I'm doing right now. So, hell yeah, I'm honored, and I'm really proud of what you're doing right now with this podcast. I'm super honored that you let me be a part of this and share some of my insight. And this actually just triggered me. I'm about to go watch every single podcast you've done. I actually tapped in and watched a couple of them, but now I'm about to really go back now that I understand in full what this is and what you're trying to do.
Well, I appreciate you, bro, and I definitely want to do a follow-up where I have you back on in like I like to do follow-ups like every 5 or 6 months. So at the end of the year I want to have you on again.
I'm really stoked for you. I'm happy that you're able to do this and give people opportunities to not only like be vulnerable and open up, but like really share, bits and pieces of what they're doing with the world, which is what I know what, as artists we're all essentially trying to do. But I think, this gives people another opportunity to kind of tap in and see people in a different light.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you again, man.
You already know, man.
Appreciate you.